You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good afternoon, Madmen Mafia.
I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I do be Jason B. Kendrick.
And we be the Madmen of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
And I guess we be in a lot today.
We be in.
We be in.
We being in the house. We being in the city.
As long as we don't be in our feelings.
Man, sometimes you got to be in your feelings, man.
I get in my feelings sometimes.
I do too, but I do it at home with pillows and stuff.
Look at us with our matching shirts on, man.
Check
We're twinning today, man. We're twinning.
Acting like we know what we're doing.
People might get us confused.
Well, see, yeah. We are starting to look alike. You hang out with each other, like our cycles are starting to slink up and everything.
Easy,
I'm starting to get grumpy the same time of month.
Man, easy. Slow your roll. So if you don't know what we look like, you listen to us over the air, you should check us out, madmenradio.com, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. Madmen of Masculinity. JBK.
What's up, man?
I believe that men.
I believe.
See, I'm with the B.
Yeah, we are believing.
I believe that amongst all the things that men should be providers and protectors.
I believe you are right, sir.
Now, a lot of times we think that's only like one dimensional. We think that's only in a paycheck, or we think that's only, banging your chest or making sure you're a big tough guy, or you can fight, or you can carry a gun and all as far as providing and protecting. Right. But there are different ways that men can be protectors. And I believe that one of the ways men can be protectors and providers is to protect their assets and their family, and to provide some level of security and comfort for their families, especially in the highly, I don't want to say unlikely, because it's all going to happen.
The highly probable.
We're all going to be gone one day. But especially in the notion, or in the unlikely event or a sad event that we disappear.
So you're saying to protect your assets from your family?
No. I think you should protect your assets within your family.
Oh, for your family.
Yeah.
Well, I know some families you got to protect your stuff from them.
Well, that's that. Well, but that's part of it too, man. That is part of it too. And so guess what, man?
What's up?
We got a guy.
You got a guy?
We got a guy, because we believe that when men are better, everybody's better. When men are the tide, when the tide comes in, all boats rise, right?
Yes, it is. And we're rising some boats.
And so we know people, man. This is the Madmen Mafia, man.
It is.
We know people. And we got a guy in studio today.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Who's this guy?
The one and only Mr. Patrick Curnalia. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
No, correct me, man. We got to get it right.
It's not cannoli?
No.
Cannoli. I wish. Curnalia.
Curnalia. Nice.
Put you in the middle.
Hey, what do you do for a living?
I am an attorney. I focus on estate planning. So what I do is I just help people get all their affairs in order, and like the unfortunate, but as Jason said, inevitable, happens. It's like, we know what's going to happen. Yeah. That's what I do. I put that together.
The mortality rate is about 100%. Pretty much everybody that's lived is still living, or has died, or is going to die one day.
Yeah, and like Kirk likes to say, everything that you have will someday be somebody else's, whether it's your money, your house, your kids,
your spouse,
maybe your spouse. Yes.
All of the above.
Everything's going to be somebody else's. And so maybe you need somebody to put it where you want it to go.
Absolutely. Because when you go on, you don't get to say, hey,
I didn't say that.
When hopefully you don't sit up from a casket and be like, yeah, that would not be cool at all. Hey, I got like a completely off the books, off the trail, bunny trail question. And that is, what is it with attorneys, lawyers putting Esquire after their name?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't fully understand it either. I just, it's one of those things that I think it was old times. That was a way to distinguish you from somebody else. It's your profession. And I really think that that's one of those things that kind of lives on, perpetuated mostly by, recent law school graduates that want to let everybody know it's like, hey, I finished this. Take a look at me. There's probably something deeper there.
I think it's all the attorneys and lawyers being mad that they couldn't be doctors too.
Oh yeah,
they want some letters behind their name.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like all attorneys have a doctorate, and that's kind of the discussion. It's like, why can't I be a doctor?
Exactly.
You're not a doctor.
You look at all the professors who are doctors. It's like, come on, you're not a doctor. You're not a doctor unless you put on scrubs. Come on,
tell
man.
Don't tell my sister-in-law.
Hey, sis, you ain't a doctor unless you put scrubs on. I'm telling you.
So how long you been doing this?
Oh gosh, I've been licensed for 13 years, so I've been doing it for quite a while.
Now, what kind of schooling is that? What path was that for you, and what does that look like?
Path is probably different for everybody. If you're going to streamline it, you're going to go on 4 years undergrad, 3 years law school, graduate with the JD. I took a little bit different path. Undergrad, I got my master's in public administration. I thought I was going to go work in government somewhere, and I did do that for a while, and I just got tired of it. It was not for me. Nothing against being
government's no fun. You can say it. The government's no fun.
It wasn't fun.
No fun.
I actually kind of heard from somebody else that played or I played soccer with that was in law school. They were telling me about what they were doing. I'm like, that sounds fun. And that sounds interesting. And I'm glad I did it. So I went back. I went to law school and finished that up. I haven't looked back.
Nice. And you're licensed in the state of Colorado, right?
Yes. Yep.
And you are not here to provide legal advice to nobody in particular. So you knuckleheads out there, don't be saying, "Hey, I saw Patrick a madman, and he told me I need to do this, and it didn't work out, so I'm gonna sue him." No, it doesn't work that way.
Yes.
We're just here having general conversations, just to CYA right here.
No legal advice being provided.
And stop leaving those messages on Kirk's machine sounding like that.
Some of y'all do leave a messages like that, man. You know who you are. You know exactly who you are.
And we're sick and tired of it.
For real.
You can change
so let's do some full disclosure here. Full disclosure is not more than a few hours ago, you were at my house.
Yes.
Hey, wait. Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
No, I'm gonna disclose it.
This was not a peanut butter event, was it?
No, easy. Come on.
Come on.
You gotta get creepy, man.
You brought it up last time. You brought it up last time.
Peanut butter with everybody. He's like, what?
There's an ongoing peanut butter joke. Don't worry.
Don't worry about it. You're better off not knowing. And so you are gonna. I'm gonna put myself out there and use myself as the whiteboard to write on.
You are the example.
The example, absolutely. And so, and you were there under the professional auspices and duties and functions. To now, I have a trust. Boom. I get a quick claim deed to put the house in the trust name and all the stuff involved with a trust. Of course, anybody that knows me knows I got married a few months ago. So now both my wife and I have new wills. We got living wills and power of attorneys and medical power of attorneys and all kinds of other stuff, man. We initially signed off.
So they no longer have a dream, they have a trust.
Yeah.
It's on paper, it's for real.
And so here's the dope part. The dope part is my wife, it really hits her deep because she's never had a will. Mm-hmm. She's never had any kind of estate planning, any of that stuff set up. And this is the second time that you've done most of this for me anyway. Yep. First time I've had a trust, but either way. And so for me to do this and to bring her into the security of it all, she's like, that feels really good having that envelope right there on the table.
Well, let's let Patrick get into it. Why did you go over to his house, and why did you create a trust? What are the benefits, and what is he protecting?
Yeah. So, as Kirk mentioned, we went through this process a few years ago and, set everything up. That worked at that point. But obviously, big life event, getting married. Okay, this isn't going to work. We need to change. These documents are not meant to be like one and done. These are evolving documents. Life changes, your documents need to change as well. So we need to kind of keep up with this stuff. And that's what we were doing. So in this situation, it's like we wanted to make sure that everything was protected. We want to make sure that we kind of simplify the process so that what we're doing is kind of making sure that if something happened to Kirk, that everything's going where it needs to go, and that people are in charge who need to be charged, and that it's doing it as quickly and efficiently as possible. Kirk, you mentioned that Kat didn't have any thing in place, and I think that one of the issues is that a lot of people look at estate planning, and there's really they see two barriers really to it. It's like, one, I'm not old, I don't need an estate plan, and two, I don't have anything that I feel like I need to plan for. It's, those are, I feel like are just misconceptions about, what we really need to do. Because at the root of it is just making sure that what we do have goes to the right people, and we have the right people in charge. And there's a lot that goes into a lot of considerations.
So if I just have a bunch of outstanding debt and bills, should I just like do that Russian roulette and just let it go to whoever? Or do I need to make a plan too?
Well, the nice thing is you have all that stuff. It's not going to be anybody else's burden. But, and that's what people think about. And they think about their stuff. And that's only part of the estate plan. So the other part of that is, I say it's like, we're going to deal with all your stuff. You pass away. Where does that go? The other part of that, okay, something happens to you. You're incapacitated. Who's going to be making these decisions for you? We want to make sure that we have the right person, because, we don't want, if you don't want the plug pulled, we don't want to, leave the default to the person who's going to do that, right away.
Pull that plug.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are like that, but or the exact opposite. It's like somebody, I'm going to leave the decision up to the person who's never going to let me go. So, it's those considerations, making sure that we have the right people. But, a lot of us too, it's like kind of getting back to, I think that the biggest thing is, I'm not old. I don't need an estate plan. I have time. It's like, well, hopefully you have time to do that. But I really feel like the best time to do an estate planning is when you're young, when you have a young family, things like that. It's like, okay, if something happened to you, who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to, watch the money to make sure that is, adequately cared for. And it's not just going to go to them, when they're too young and they just kind of blow all the money on something. So you're just putting all these people in place, putting, the parameters around certain things. Then that's what the estate planning process is going to be. It's kind of like the life insurance. It's like, we don't need life insurance when we're old. We need it when we're young. That's when people are counting on us and relying on that income that we're trying to replace. So same thing with an estate plan. It's like, we need that more so when we're young. When everybody's old, the kids are all old, they can all make decisions. It's like, well, they can probably figure it out at that point. But if they're, 10, 11 years old, it's like they need that extra guidance.
So what you're saying is basically, it's kind of like insurance. You want to make sure you have it, because if you want to have it in case you need it versus, not have it and need it. So like, I like that point, because when you're younger, you need to have the plan, because if you do pass, it's going to be a surprise. If you're older and the kids are older, it's not a surprise. Everybody's expecting it. So you really do need it when you're younger, because if it happens, it's a surprise, and you need to know where your stuff's going, or at least have a plan.
And we're going to get into, here over the next couple of segments, we'll get into some of the nuances that are a part of the overall estate planning umbrella, I guess you can say, things as to why all of these things are specifically needed and important. Somebody once told me that, you might think you broke, you don't have anything, but what if you pass away because you got T-boned at an intersection where a FedEx truck ran a red light because the driver was drunk? You're probably going to be worth something, even in your death.
Congratulations! Now you're worth something.
Congratulations! Somebody's going to be worth something. If nothing else, you should probably
protect
have some say so what that is. So anyhow, let's take a break, and then, like I said, we're going to come back and get into some of the parts of that and really break down why these things are important and why they bring some level of protection and provision to family and or whoever you want.
Stay tuned. The why is coming.
Absolutely. Madmen of Masculinity, KLDC. We'll be right back.
Doing well, sir. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I wanted to establish your subject matter expertness right up front. The fact that you're not an old head, you didn't just roll out of bed and say, "Yeah, you're a freaking professional."
Well, it helps too, when because we have a lot of folks like, "Oh, you got a radio? I want to be on the radio." And it's like, what you bring to the table?
Yeah. To be fair, I've done it at least 2 times.
Well,
that you guys know.
Yeah.
Right on. At least. See, now you whittle away at my confidence. I don't know. I was thinking about hiring somebody, but now
he's done 2 wheels. I'm sure of that. 2 sets of positive and all that.
Positive. 2 and 13. He's like the Jay-Z of attorneys. I'm only gonna do 2 over 13 years.
All right.
Yep.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Madmen of Masculinity.
Right here on KLDC.
12:20 a.m.
in the Mile High City.
That's right. And on the interwebs
everywhere.
We're home. We're up here in Denver, the Mile High City, home of the NBA champions.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it.
We
have a baseball team too.
It's almost springtime. It's spring training, man.
They down there, they're trying to get, but this is the year.
They know where you
live.
live.
This is the year. World Series is coming to Colorado. We've had a World Series before.
Yeah, we have. We just haven't in a while.
Anyhow.
But I mean, that's Denver though. We've got every team. We've got every type of sport.
Yeah,
we got to spread the wealth around. It can't be always everybody being national champs.
Denver is dope. Not many cities have every major sport.
And even the not so major ones.
I mean, yeah, even some of the not tier 1 sports. But I mean, it wasn't until recently that LA got football, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, not every city out there has every man, and Denver's got it all, man.
Yeah, all of them.
Denver's got all that kind of stuff, man. And we have Patrick.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Patrick is protecting your estates and your life.
That's right.
He
If
is
you
the
are one of the
Superman.
Denver Nuggets, you need to call Patrick.
Yes. Oh,
Because
yes.
If nothing else, you got a ring that needs to go to somebody.
Well, let me just say, I mean, I've been watching a lot behind the sports, a lot of 360, whatever it is. And some of y'all professional athletes need some estate planning help because dang.
For reals. I mean, and so one of the aspects when we talk about estate planning, I mean, there's different things that kind of fall under that umbrella, right? Under that whole concept or whatever it is. And some of it is when I pass away. Some of it is before you pass away. Some of it is, to your point, while you're incapacitated and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
What is the whole idea of like a living will, medical power of attorney?
So basically, something's going to happen to us. We're going to get sick. We might be on life support. And we want to figure out, okay, what do we want to do? And we have a couple of documents to kind of take care of that, give some guidance. The first one, a medical power of attorney, basically just appointing the person that we want to be able to make medical decisions on our behalf. It's really kind of scary if we don't have that, just because Colorado statute says, any interested individual can kind of have a say in your well-being and your care. And so that it's pretty open-ended. I think I get the idea that we want, everybody to kind of have, some interest if you don't have some legal commitment to the person or something like that. But it's clear that, it's like it's the live-in partner or something like that they're kind of, not necessarily treated equal, but they have some sort of say, and we'll kind of leave it to, the decision maker, in this case, a judge, if it came to it, who we're going to let make the decision.
Yeah, I want to be able to choose who makes the decision for my medical care, not the stalker down the street who's overly concerned about my business.
Right. And we don't want the person who can make the best, argument, the most charismatic person to do that. We want the person that we feel comfortable with, because, for different reasons, it might be somebody else. It might not be, the close family members. It might be our friend, just because we know that they're willing to let us go. So something like that's usually, lots of times I see that is the issue, is like, I don't want people keeping me around when I'm ready to go. Yeah. I want people to I know are going to be able to make that decision.
I'm gonna put Kirk on mine because I know he'll be like, pull the plug.
Oh yeah,
get him out of here
right away.
Like, make sure you do it after Monday, because you need it for the show. Can you just prop him up for the show?
We'll do Weekend at Bernie episodes.
Yeah, that's it. We'll do that thing. In the living will, though, you have like verbiage in there in terms of like how long you want to remain on life support, different things like that. Which, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, mine was a couple of weeks. My wife was like, no way. Leave me on there for a while. Like hers was a lot longer than that. I'm like, girl, you want me? I'm like, really selfish of you. So I mean, it gives everybody that option, right?
Right. Yeah. So and what we're doing is, so medical power of attorney, what we're doing is we're entrusting somebody else to make that decision. We're hoping that they're going to use their judgment, kind of look and see what we would hopefully do in that situation, that knows us, knows our values, going to be able to make that decision. If for various reasons, maybe we don't want to leave that up to somebody else, and we just kind of want to put down what we want to have happen. That's going to be that living will, or it's also referred to as the advanced healthcare directive. And it just says, okay, when I'm in this state that two doctors agree, I'm just being kept alive by machines, I want to be out of here after this amount of time. And, kind of people have different feelings about that. Some things we look at are, how long would it take for family to get back to say goodbye? How long do I just want to stick around? I've seen it all over the board, 180 days,
Wow.
It's one day people just like immediately. It's like, okay, so
can you put it on a sliding scale depending on what my condition is? Like if it's possibly curable or they're just waiting for a transplant, maybe 3 months. But if it's terminal, like just
that's the issue with the living will. We want some objective standard. The subjectivity comes in with the doctors basically signing off on it, saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is the prognosis. When me and my partner agree that you're just being kept alive by machines, and there's no hope, that's when we're going to kind of turn to this living will. A lot of people don't like that. It's like, and I completely get that. If you're young and healthy, it's like this hopefully isn't going to be coming into play for a number of years. And and things might change, circumstances might change, and so I don't know if I want to put down right now what I want to have happen, because I don't know what it's going to look like. So I always say it's like, this is an optional document. I'd say typically the younger you are, the more likely you're going to forego that and just kind of leave it up to your medical power of attorney to kind of be able to take a look at all this stuff. If you're a guy like Kirk, oh, for sure you're going to have a living will because you're on borrowed time already.
Old
man.
So,
wow.
but that's kind of the.
You've been hanging out with Jason too much, man, for real. You auditioning for Jason's job right now, man.
Yeah, but I mean, it's different for everybody. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like kind of different circumstances. Different people have different feelings about it. If older person, spouse has already passed away, they're probably much more comfortable signing that document, saying, "Yep, let's not prolong it. Let's make sure that this is ready to go, and I don't want anybody else to be burdened with that. This is what I want to have happen."
Yeah, my living will is going to be like a flow chart. If this, then that. And then if this is yes, then you got to go over here. And then this is, they're going to have to follow the formula.
You would make it all complicated.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, like,
Don't put me on there.
I'm not as old as you are. So, I got time.
I
want to live, Kirk.
You got time. But I mean, to your point of, these are decisions, like, especially in this case, you don't want to leave up to the wrong person.
Right.
And, or in my opinion, you don't want to leave up to somebody that has no connection to you at all, like a judge. And meanwhile, while somebody might be fighting this out in court, you're still laying there with tubes and everything coming out of you, just lingering in the wind. So this is one of those speaking for yourself when you're not able to speak for yourself.
Right. And that's the Terry Shallow issue. It's like you don't want to be that next case. It's like you want to have written down what you want to have happen. And kind of take it out of the hands of other people. But I totally get, at least appointing somebody in that medical power of attorney to make the decision, so that okay, I'm not ready to put that down of what I want to have happen, but I am comfortable naming this person to be able to make that decision when it comes time.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Yes.
Especially if you have family members that, maybe you got some kids, your kids, you definitely don't want them to have to say so, or whomever. I don't know. I mean, hopefully you're not married to somebody you don't trust, but, could be, I don't know, maybe they don't make the best decisions, or, maybe they, maybe they got stuff going on in life and you're like,
yeah. Well,
I mean, if the person's, kind of strung out addict or something like that, maybe you don't want them making choices and decisions.
Well, I mean, how often we talk about it on the divorce episodes, the person you married isn't the person you divorced, and maybe, the relationship is strained and then something happens to you. And if you don't have some sort of protection there, something to say, this is my last will, or this is what I want, they might be like, nah, he's done, pull the plug.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you don't have certain documents, maybe it's the medical power of attorney, I don't know, but if you don't have those, then hospitals can't even talk to people about your condition, right? Or to some degree, or
right.
What's that whole thing?
Yeah, so I mean, HIPAA, that's the law that protects all of our medical information. Is as much good as it does. It also, it's a roadblock for people trying to get information when they need it. It's like people's hands are tied because of it. So what we want to do is we want to make it clear that, okay, regardless of what's going to happen, I want my doctors to be able to talk to these people at any time. When somebody's serving under medical power of attorney, full access to information, talking to doctors, kind of making those decisions. But we want to make sure that, okay, I want complete communication with all of my family members, not just my power of attorney. Talk to my kids, talk to my friends, it's like I want to be able to authorize these people to talk to it. We're not necessarily giving them any decisional authority making, but we do want them to be able to talk to it. I mean, and that's completely up to the person who they want to kind of have open access to those types of things. I mean, you want to be careful about it. You just don't throw everybody down there. But I mean, there's probably plenty of reasons to be able to make sure that like your adult children are all able to kind of get that information so that everybody can be on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, even nowadays with all the different partnerships and types of relationships and things, if you don't have some sort of something written down to say this is my life partner, and they have say, they could just be like, no, they're not blood family, or they're not married or whatnot, or whatever the case may be. So writing these things down and having a living trust, I mean, and like you said, changing it, because relationships nowadays are tough, so you might need to have 2 or 3. Right.
It's one of those things that's like, I see more and more, joint estate plans that is not between husband and wife. Mm-hmm. It just, committed partnerships, but they for whatever reason, they haven't, taken that next step.
Because the government sucks. They don't want to bring them into the, no, wait, they have their own reasons. Sure.
Yeah. Everybody has their own reasons for doing it, not doing it. But we need to make sure that it's okay. We don't have kind of like any sort of legal standing. Colorado does recognize, common law marriage, things like that. So there might be an argument there, but that's a whole other story. But if you want to make sure that your partner can access certain things, can talk to people, has certain rights and properties and things like that, we need to have the documentation that kind of shows that, because it's not going to be assumed. One of the things that I should probably point out, I kind of mentioned it with the medical power of attorney, is that everybody out there has an estate plan already that the state of Colorado has put together for you.
Great.
It's not as robust as you probably like it to be, but we have defaults for all of this stuff.
Is it kind of like if you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided for you?
Yeah.
And he's like fresh out of law school to know what he's doing?
Yeah, it's something similar to that. It's like, for a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but for some people, that might work. You might be able to roll the dice and, okay, that is going to flow to the right people, and it's going to give people the priority that I want to be able to do these things to get my property. Great. And I've actually counseled people like, oh, my mom's in hospice. It's like, she doesn't have a will, things like that. It's like, well, there's some competency things going on there, but like, if what she wants to have happen is X, Y, and Z, well, that's what's going to happen under the laws it's called the laws of intestacy. That is your estate plan that the state of Colorado has for you if you don't put something in place. So that might work for people. And then sometimes I say, you don't need to pay me to draft this real quick will to do it. If something happens, it's like you have priority to be the personal representative to take care of everything. You are the beneficiary. So there's no need to kind of worry about this now. Spend the time, with your mom, with your dad in these last moments. Don't worry about kind of getting all this legal stuff, because what you want to have happen, what she or he wants to have happen, is what's going to happen under state law anyways.
Well, that's good, because we don't want the state deciding much more than they have to when it comes to what we have. So
right. And so you don't want to just assume that because you're married to somebody, if something happens to them, they can go to the hospital and make all kinds of decisions. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. So and with that too, there's like, okay, the legal requirements are this. I need to, the doctor needs to follow this. It's like, I need to respond to, this person on the medical power of attorney. If these people come in and they agree, I'm going to do this. But, depending on the situation, I'm not saying everybody would do this, but it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to kind of, a doctor to kind of not do exactly what they want to do, and just, kind of go, with the will of the most, vocal family member or something like that.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease in there.
Right.
Speaking of the squeaky wheel, it's time for us to squeak our wheel into a break. We'll be right back. Mad Men and Masculinity right here on KLDC.
Boom.
Why are you going to show me the clock and ask another question?
I know. I thought about that. Because I was expecting a lawyer to give a one-word answer. Which
that would man.
I could just give the best attorney. It depends. It depends.
I've never heard a lawyer ever say yes or no. It's always true. Well, statute.
Yeah, that's. I tell you what, man. if there's a state I don't necessarily want making all those kind of decisions.
Oh, man.
Right.
For reals.
Yeah, we're turning into the little California over here. It's
I
getting
don't know,
bad.
man. It's
A lot of people don't like that, and and the thing is, it's like it's been set this way, but change in statute that could all change.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you can't assume that whatever what you call that estate planning for you can't assume that's always going to be that, because to your point, legislature can change what that is, and all of a sudden, and you don't know.
Right.
I mean, they can just pass a new law, new bill saying, guess what?
Yeah. Now we don't have the budget, so you don't get that. So if you don't have your own, then
We need some more weed tax, or you ain't getting nothing.
Yeah, and it's complicated enough where, like, if you don't understand it, you might think something's going to happen and it doesn't, because like there's all kinds of weird rules.
That's the biggest thing. That's what we need to talk about on the third segment. Is like, you think you understand it, you probably don't.
Right.
So. We're back.
Yes, we are.
Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC, 12:20 a.m. City and on the interwebs everywhere. I mean, you talking madmenradio.com, you talking Mad Men of Masculinity on YouTube,
Spotify,
on Facebook,
Apple Podcasts,
whatever podcast platform you got, man. I'm telling you, everywhere, man. We are global.
We are. We're worldwide with this
Worldwide.
thing. Speaking of worldwide, we were talking during the break about what you probably think you know versus what you really know and what you need to know when it comes to wills, estate planning, and how to protect what you have. Because I think a lot of us, we watch YouTube and TikTok and think, oh, well, I know everything because it's on the internet. You might need to talk to an expert.
Right. And so that's why you got Patrick.
That's why Patrick. So what are the main things? Like, what would be like the top 3 things that most people think they know that are probably different, especially here in Colorado, that they need to know about their living will and estate, etc.?
Well, I think kind of what we were talking about in the last segment, and just these laws of intestacy. Well, there's something there. It's like if something happens to me, it's automatically going to go to my spouse, or it's automatically going to go to my kids, and that's not necessarily the case. It really depends on the family dynamic. It's like,
or how much you owe.
Are these your kids? Are they? Is it your first marriage? Blended families are treated differently than first marriages, where the kids are the children of both spouses. It all depends, and it's kind of weird how it gets broken up. If you don't have any kids, how that's treated. So one of the things might happen is if you're just married, you don't have any kids, you think that, well, if something happens to me, it's going to go to my new spouse. Well, that's true for I'm going to probably get these numbers wrong because they could change, but like for the first $250,000, that goes to your spouse. Anything above that is split, between the spouse and your parents. So, I mean, people might not have ever thought about that. Like, I don't need to do anything. It's just the two of us. Well, it's not just the two of you in the eyes of the state. That's why, it's like you just get married. You probably need to have some sort of estate plan to make sure that the things that you put together go to the people you want to. And if that's your new spouse, you need to make sure that you identify that. Yeah. Otherwise, mom and dad might be getting away.
Yeah, you don't want mother-in-law getting all your goodies.
Yeah.
You want that going to your lover and your wife, not mother-in-law.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a misconception that I know where it's going to go. And it's fairly complicated how that all works, because every little kind of difference in the family dynamic can make a difference on that.
Now, something I was joking about before, but kind of brought up a question, like if you're in a lot of debt or you owe a lot and then you pass away, I mean, is there ways to protect your family from that, or they end up going to be holding that bill? So
typically, if you pass away, unless it's some sort of joint debt, that goes with you. So, if you have a bunch of debts, there are some exceptions to that. But generally, if it's your debt, that goes with you. So, sometimes what people do is, kind of looking at, after somebody passes away, we kind of go through this probate process of kind of like transferring assets, taking care of debts, things like that. But lots of times unfortunately, there is, this instance where the debt exceeds the assets. In that case, your estate is insolvent. And so in that case, it's like the family might not be getting anything, but they're not also, shackled with that debt. It's like that more or less goes away with you. And there's some exceptions, that might kind of follow you around. But in general, those kind of go away. And one of the mistakes is people might go out of their, into their own pockets to pay for those things when they don't have to. Part of the, the process of probate is kind of going through and negotiating these things. Even if an estate is not insolvent, you can still call up any creditor and say, hey, I don't know what it's going to look like. It's kind of like buying the car. It's like, I'm going to go back and forth. It's like, I don't know if I can do this. Would you accept this type thing? And kind of like, kind of working them down a little bit. So some people might do that. If it's insolvent and they want to try to save something to kind of get that down, or if there's plenty of assets, but we just want to make sure that we maximize what's going to go to the family.
Right.
So in any case, when we pass away, all of that stuff still has to be resolved, and all of that stuff still has to be settled. And somebody's got to do it. And so ultimately, right, I mean, I would think the goal is to try to mitigate as much of that before you go as possible, so that there's not so much. So when somebody passes away, even if they have wills and trusts, all that kind of stuff, so it's still, you still have to, like, you would still come into the picture to help, I guess, settle all that, right? Or no?
Yeah. So estate administration is, another part of it. I focus more on the estate planning, but of course, they go hand in hand. Estate administration, making sure that, okay, somebody's passed away. We have these documents that kind of give us the roadmap of what we need to do. But, if we've never done it before, kind of navigating the court system, if we have to open up probate, interpreting trust guidelines and provisions, if we've never kind of dealt with that language, can people do it on their own? Sure. Would I recommend it? Probably not, just because unless you've kind of gone through this process and you're comfortable with it, there's a lot of pitfalls where you could kind of run afoul and kind of mess some things up. And it's probably worthwhile to hire, professionals to help you through the process to make sure that everything is done correctly. We want to make it as easy as possible by setting up these documents, but we want to make sure that they're followed correctly as well. And so that's where those professionals come in. And I really recommend not trying to take this on your own.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things, just like, don't talk to the cops and without a lawyer, don't die without a will. Like, if you want, you don't know the loopholes and the laws and the statutes. There's these professionals spend every year updating their knowledge for the new statutes and things that we would never even hear about and know. It's just like when we had Brett on for the tax season. It's the same sort of thing. You want these professionals to protect you because you don't know what you don't know. And you're just going to dig yourself a bigger hole without a professional watching your back.
Right. And that's exactly why we do this. I mean, it's a lot, and it's a lot that most of us, 99% of us, don't know. And so, and these are conversations we don't normally have. When's the last time you had just an open conversation about estate planning?
Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time on the golf course.
That's golf course.
That's hole number 2
that
every
right
time.
With religion and politics and all the typical stuff we talk about.
How's your estate planning going? How's that will? Yeah,
but
that sounds good.
We don't like to think about it, but guess what, man? At some point, somebody's going to have to. And a year plus ago, when my grandmother passed away, and I had to help my mom with the planning and all that kind of stuff. I mean, man, I didn't realize so many details went into just even planning like funerals and that kind of stuff, let alone, and not luckily, but in that case, my mom already had complete power of attorney for all that stuff because my grandmother had dementia and all of that. So she didn't have to go through any of this stuff. My grandmother at that point didn't have any assets, didn't have anything. But man, just talking to my mom about the details of all this stuff. And this is why we need to talk about these things. This is why we need to have, the sit down conversation with, here's what things are. If I'm gone tomorrow, here's where you find X, Y, and Z. Here's where the list of all of this is. Here's the details of my estate that I planned out. And this is why we're talking about protecting and providing for your family.
Yeah. And what I do is I always tell my clients, it's like, I put the formal documents in place, but there's a lot to it, more than that. It's, kind of putting the pieces together for everybody. Because if something happened to you, yeah, sure, I have the documents that says, this person is going to be in charge of everything and they have the authority to do it. Okay, but great. What do I do? It's like, okay, where all of your accounts are. Where your life insurance policies are. Is somebody else going to be able to step in here, kind of figure all that out? Most likely not. They might be able to do a couple of things, but years ago, what we would do is, if we didn't know something, we would wait for that, statement to come in the mail. But now we have e-statements for everything. So unless you have access to somebody's email address, you're never going to see that. And you're going to be sitting there just waiting around, checking the Great Colorado Payback website, every year to see if something pops up. And you're just not going to know. So I always say, it's like, I'm going to help you put all these documents together, but you need to kind of get the rest of your affairs in order to make sure that the person who's stepping in here, they're going to have a hard enough time to kind of navigate all this. Don't make it harder by not giving them the information and the tools that they need to figure it out.
So It sounds like you can even help set up like almost a to-do list, like here's your checklist for after something happens, so that you can find those documents, or you can find where to look, or you can have it all set up and organized. So like when they find the trust or the living will, then it just says, here's this, and this.
Right. Yes. So, all my clients, any attorney is going to have you fill out an intake form. But one of the sections of that is kind of a financial inventory. And it's like, I don't ask you that just because I want to kind of check it out, see what you got going on there.
What's it got?
It's just, but it really is a tool. It's like, okay, we need to talk about these types of assets, but okay, you went through, you took a look and kind of inventoried everything. Great. If you could keep updating this and provide that to somebody, they don't need to know where, like how much money you have, your bank account numbers, but they do need to know that I have an account at this bank. I have my life insurance policy through these people. Contact them. You'll jump through all the hoops, and they'll tell you what you need to know, but you just need to know who to contact.
So do we set it up in like a break glass after death sort of thing?
Actually, I'll tell you. First of all, this is a lot like conversations that I think couples should have before you get married in terms of prenup. Just having these conversations. And I'll tell you what I did in this case specifically. So I happen to be the one between us that I pay the bill. But to your point, most of it is online and it's auto pay and all that kind of stuff. So I went through and I made a list of every bill, the provider, the account number, and the login, they're all just kind of saved on the computer. But I made a list of every single one of those in a spreadsheet. And I basically told her, here's the file on my laptop. Open that file and that's where it all is. And all the bookmarks are saved on the computer, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of went through it, and it is kind of a break glass in case of before I was married and all that all of the stuff that you did last time, Patrick, I gave that a copy to my mom and I gave a copy to my brother of all of that. And I also told them pretty much the same stuff, where the hidden key is to my house and all that kind of, but then I also said, call Patrick. I had your name, contact info, and I was like, he called him for all the legal stuff, right? But here's all the other little stuff.
Yeah, it's very common that it's like joint finances, couples. It's like everything's getting taken care of. It's not uncommon that just one person takes care of all that. And so when that spouse passes away, even though this person's been there for everything, that I know that I have Xfinity, but who do I call? It's like, what do I do? It's like I've never had to deal with that side of it. But some people don't even know that much. It's like I don't know. How to get into this bank account. My wife is the same way. It's like I do all of the finances. I pay all the bills. Most of them are set up on auto pay, but like I still move things around, and she wouldn't know exactly what to do for that. So it's just making sure that we think about who's going to be doing this and what do they know and what do they need to know.
And in my case, it is a file right in the middle of my desktop on my one laptop at home that she has the password to and can get in and all that kind of stuff. And so to your point, that's what I did. I kind of did a break glass, but Patrick is my break glass legal guy. Contact him when it hits the fan. when it hits the fan.
Well, hopefully you contact him before it hits the fan and plan for that day, because as we all know, the storms of life, they're consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they definitely happen all the time, especially like now.
Yeah,
we have to storm this break.
We consistently have to happen all the time. We're going to take this last break here, and we'll be right back. Madmen and Masculinity. Boom. Good stuff. But yeah, that's exactly what I did, man. I made a spreadsheet of all that stuff, and it was whatever the provider was, Excel, Core, blah blah blah, mortgage, all this other stuff. and then the account number and like the email address or something like that. And then on my one laptop at home, all the bookmarks are right there, and the login is automatic. Like you don't even.
Well, hopefully that laptop's not with you on the plane that goes
Well,
down or
yeah.
something like that. That's kind of the issue.
Hopefully you got that locked up.
That
somewhere,
laptop,
'cause-
no, that laptop is never with me if I'm traveling. If the plane goes down and it's both of us, then I don't care. Then whoever, my mom and brother, they're screwed. They just gotta.
No, you need to have that laptop in like a safety deposit box because somebody's gonna hear this.
And, I also have that printed out in my. And there's some things we got in our safe too, like this stuff, but that's also one of them. But I think you need to have these conversations, man, because the last thing you want is for people to have to figure it out from scratch.
Yeah.
After you're gone.
As a man, part of our providing and protecting is to even protecting them from the inevitability and making a plan so that when those things happen, they're like, oh, he set this up.
And buried in that is also like, I got life insurance. I mean, everybody needs life insurance. I don't want people having to do GoFundMe's when I'm dead.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, I don't want people to have to sell chicken dinners to help pay for X, Y, and Z.
I do. I want to have a raffle. I want to have a fundraiser.
You make sure you put my name on your.
I guess what are you raffling off?
My debt. Who wants this?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff. That's a gift that you can give people after you're gone. Right. And to me, that's part of providing and protecting.
It's a hard enough time to have to go through that. Why make it harder? Yeah. It's like I want to set up.
It's going to suck enough that I'm not there anymore, and they got to deal with me being gone and the
we hope it's
void that's going to leave the void that's going to leave in their life. Not having a fantastic individual like me in their life. That's going to be hard enough, man. Somebody's going to need to hug Jason. And so that person can't be behind the scenes looking up.
They're going to have to hug me because when I find out I'm not in your will, I'm going to be like,
oh, don't tell him. He already.
I know him. He'll be like, give him them orange golf balls that I use. He can have them.
Patrick knows the answer to that question. And you're more right than you think.
Why would I be in your will? That would be if I was in your will, that'd be weird.
Actually, if he remembers anything, he's probably looking at me like, I mean, I have some considerations that I did incorporate. Some people are going to be surprised, put it that way. Some people will feel the love.
We'll all be surprised by the love that you share.
Absolutely.
It's so generous.
But you cut out. Yeah, I put in there specifically, Jason B. Kendrick is not allowed to have.
I know, because you're like, he's had enough.
Until he apologizes for everything he said and did to me. Don't give him jack.
I can't do that. I mean, the show would just suck if I did that.
All right, here we
go. And welcome back.
I'm sitting here cracking up, man.
It is the Mad Men Show. And guess what, y'all? If you weren't watching behind the scenes, I'm not in his will.
Yeah, y'all need to go back and look at
I'm not even getting his orange golf balls.
We have these conversations. Actually, that's what I could write that in there.
Don't you dare.
I can give you my cheap Walmart $10 orange golf balls.
Hey, you know what? If that time came, I would go out and hit those balls.
You better not, man, because you be losing golf balls, man. I don't want you to be. You probably use those when you're right next to that lake over on Kennedy.
I'm telling you what.
That's when you probably break those out.
Let's break this down. Who uses white?
That's true.
And who uses orange and why?
That's true.
Because you like to see better.
Keep up the story in my head.
Okay. All right. You keep up the fantasy. I'm gonna keep up the fantasy that I'm in your will.
Yeah, exactly. Tree for tree. And we're here talking about estate planning. Especially from a man perspective. Obviously, everyone, men and women, male, female.
But this is a Mad Men show, and it's about healthy masculinity, and it's about you men protecting and providing even after you're gone.
And it doesn't matter if you think you don't have enough or you don't think you have anything. It doesn't matter if you think you're too young, too old. I mean, if nothing else, you want to be able to advocate for yourself when you can't speak for yourself. And you want to be able to have a guy like Patrick in your corner that can get all this stuff kind of lined up and set up so that when things hit the fan, because at some point they will in your life, I mean, you can have people designated for whatever it is you want them designated for, whether it be decisions or any kind of assets or any of that kind of stuff you want to have. Hey, before we even get too far into this last segment, how can people get a hold of you? We're going to circle back, but before we get even all the way to the end, how can people get a hold of you, Patrick?
Oh, yeah. The thing is, I'm a one-man shop. So, I I'm receptionist. I'm the attorney. I'm the paralegal. I kind of take care of everything. I do the scheduling.
You're the notary.
I am the notary. So, phone number 303-834-2556. I try to answer that as best I can. But if I'm doing a radio show or something like that, not going to be able to answer. That's a great way. Other way, I always checking email. Patrick at CurnaliaLaw.com. Patrick at CurnaliaLaw.com. That's always probably the best way to get a hold of me. That way I can kind of respond. I work in all hours. I try to be a good dad, take time off, when the kids come home, and then I get back to it, after they go to sleep, and kind of, so I'm always responding to emails in the evening as well. So.
Well, I would put your email in the chat, but that was too long, and I don't want it to sound like I'm just beating on that. So you have to send that to me. I'll put it in the comments after the fact.
You put your phone number in.
I'll put your phone number in there.
Oh, absolutely.
I could sneak that one in, but then I was like thinking about I'm gonna be. It's just gonna sound like somebody's beating on the drums.
Yeah, Jason's actually here for his Make-A-Wish.
I am. I
wanted
to be on the menu.
Special. Nothing wrong with being special, man. It is what it is, man. But the notion of having protection and provision, even when you aren't either alive or incapacitated, is a huge concept that we don't normally think about. We don't normally talk about, but these are absolutely things that culturally we need to talk about, especially as men. We should be leading the discussion to have these difficult topics and making sure that if we are the one that's gone, that checked out before whomever else, that they are taken care of as far as whether it be resources or if nothing else, decisions that are already made. I remember, I even checked off whether or not I wanted to be buried or cremated. In the thing. All that kind of stuff, all these details. I don't want my wife and I have different perspectives on how long to be on life support. I don't want her to have to, grapple with what I would want. It's right there in paper, and she knows that. And we've had these conversations. So these are things that we should be talking about in our culture. Yeah, and these are things you want to decide before you're on your deathbed. Right. These are things you want to decide before you're being pushed into hospice. Like, you don't want to be on your deathbed going, "Oh, I think I should have had a will done." Yeah. You don't want it when it's too late. No. And you don't want the state trying to decide what it is, especially in Colorado, where we have this haze cloud over the city. Just say no. Yeah. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. Just say no to Colorado in your business. Exactly. Just saying. Yeah. Now, okay. Let's talk about this whole idea. Finally, home stretch. I created a trust. Right. What is a trust, and why would somebody create one?
Well, the idea of a trust is to have a place to house your assets, during lifetime, but more importantly, after death, that you still have some sort of control over. What we always say that, a will speaks at death, and whatever it says, we take care of it at that point. So, if these are the beneficiaries, I pass away, it's going to go to those people, with, few exceptions, minor children, things like that. That can't handle that. We might have conservators put in place to kind of take care of that till, here in Colorado till they're 21. But for a lot of us, if we have young kids, we probably want something a little bit more than that. We want to have a little bit more control of what's going to happen. So we can have this idea of a trust where we have our property, whether we put it in there during life or as a result of our death, but it goes into this vehicle where we kind of dictate how property comes out and who's in charge of it. So what the trust does is it allows you to kind of like manage the property more or less after death and put the people in place to do that. So if you don't want your kids to receive, their inheritance at age 21, because that just seems like a terrible idea for a child to get something on their 21st birthday for a couple $100,000, what kind of damage would they do with that? Most of us, that's not palatable. We want something, in place that allows us to kind of say, okay, I want to be able to take care of you. If you have needs, I certainly want those to be met, but I don't want you to have control over this. I don't want you to get this until, you're going to be mature enough to be able to do that. So I'm going to put some parameters around this. First thing, I'm going to put a trustee in place who's going to kind of manage the funds, kind of be in charge of, investing the assets. If you have real estate, deciding whether we're going to keep the real estate, sell it, turn it into a rental, kind of what we need to do with that. And as far as, the cash, it's like, Well, we probably just don't want that sitting there. Our kids are, 2 and 4 years old, for the next 30 years. We want to, be able to invest that a little bit. So we're going to, work with a financial advisor to kind of find an appropriate way to invest it. All the while we're going to be making sure that, as things come up, as the needs of the kids come up, for clothing, education, healthcare costs, that this trust is, there to be able to kind of cover those things. But at the end of the day, still protecting that and kind of keeping it until we get to, a point in time, typically, an age where we think, okay, 30 years old. Yeah, I think that you're going to be appropriately able to handle this. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Whatever's left over, you get that. You made it to the finish line. But we just want to have something there to kind of be able to protect those, basically from the beneficiaries until they get a little bit older.
Now, can you speak on, because I know that having a trust for your, last will and testament for your estate as you pass away is a good thing. But can you talk about the benefits of having a trust and how it protects you even while you're still living in your assets? Like maybe taking some things out of your name or putting in the trust or doing those things that are help, tax wise and whatnot, because I see there's a lot of benefit even while you're still just building your estate and building your assets to have a trust.
Yeah. So there's, trusts come in, thousands of different flavors. Everything has like a different name. It's like, this type of trust, that type of trust, but it all kind of boils down to two types of trust, a living revocable trust and an irrevocable trust. So, we're, for the most part, what we're talking about with, the estate planning for the vast majority of people, we're talking about a living revocable trust. And what that means is we create it during your lifetime, and we have complete control over that trust and the property inside of the trust. What we're doing is we're using that as a vehicle to take that out of our name so that when we pass away, it doesn't have to go through the probate process. Because all probate is just the process of retitling assets from the name of the deceased person to the name of the beneficiaries. So if we don't have something in our name when we pass away, we take that off the table. Great. No court involvement. Everything kind of stays private within the family. It's a much quicker process to kind of get that all taken care of. So that's what most people are going to do is we're going to set up a revocable trust, move property in there, kind of get it to the beneficiaries as quickly as possible. Or in a situation where you have beneficiaries that can't handle that, keep it inside of that trust until they're old enough to be able to kind of handle that and accept it. The other part is an irrevocable trust. Now, this is quite a bit different, and there's usually very specific reasons to do this. You might do it for tax planning, asset protection, things like that. But what we're really doing is with an irrevocable trust, we're really losing control of the assets and the trust itself. We kind of put something in place, and we have to kind of be comfortable with what we're doing, because we might not be able to change that in the way that we want to. We give up certain rights in that property, but there might be a very specific reason. The doctor that might be subject to potential lawsuits might be willing to kind of set aside a certain number of assets, lose control over it, but it's set up there for their kids, their family. If something were to happen to them, they got sued. They've disassociated themselves from that property. Because what happens is if you have a living revocable trust, you go get in a car accident, because you still have complete control over those assets. Those are open to your creditors. They can attach to those assets because you have the right to go in there, pull them out. It's as if you still own it. So it doesn't provide any asset protection. So these irrevocable trusts do that, but they're not the right vehicle for a lot of people. And I'd say that the vast majority of people are really going to be looking at these revocable trusts that give them the greatest control, because not a lot of us have the ability to kind of throw a couple $1 million into a trust and not need that, or not potentially need that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my castle in Scotland in my irrevocable trust. Keep it in the family. As long as you got my last name and you're part of the bloodline, you can stay there.
Sure.
Occasionally.
Sure. You want those people that buy like the 12 by 12 inch piece of land in Scotland, so you can
that's just rude, mister.
I'm just saying.
You're crapping on my lineage.
It is what it is. Point is, man, there's so many topics, man. We got to, first of all, Patrick, we could like unpack any one of these things in a whole like show episode. We got to have you back at some point, man. Hopefully we can.
I'd love to.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions, if this sparks something and you have questions, put them in the comments or send us a message. We'll forward it to Patrick, and then we'll get you some answers.
Absolutely, man. This is stuff that men, specifically everyone, but specifically men, man, we need to take the lead on this and make sure. And if nothing else, whoever you are, man, woman, boy, or girl, you want to be able to speak for yourself when you can't speak for yourself, and that includes if you got tubes and all that kind of stuff coming out of you on what to happen. So, Patrick, man, we appreciate it, man, and like I said, we definitely got to have it back.
It was a pleasure being here. Appreciate it.
One more time, how can folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, 303-834-2556. That's the phone number.
I got it right.
Yeah, great. And then email address, patrick@CurnaliaLaw.com, Patrick at CURNALIALAW.com, and also www.CurnaliaLaw.com. So,
boom. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for being part of the Mad Men Mafia, helping people get better, especially helping men get better. When men are better, everybody's better.
Yeah, and guys, if you're thinking about doing a little estate plan and you think about doing a trust, call Patrick. He's a one-stop shop. He's going to take care of you. You ain't got to go through secretary. He is secretary.
He is the one.
He's going to be notarizing all your forms.
He is it all.
He's take care of business.
And so with that, man, we will holler at y'all next time. We love every single one of you guys, man. Keep your head up. You keep out there. You keep your head in the game. You're not in it by yourself. We're in it with you. You are part of the Mad Men Mafia. Holler at us. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like. Let us know how funny Jason looks. All that kind of stuff, man. Holler at us and keep in touch. And until next time, we will check you later. We are out.